Hello, it is Matthew with Dead Rights. I I've been reading through, well, not reading, I've been listening to the letter to the Hebrews in the New Testament, and something that I have just been struck by. I've listened to a lot of sermons about Hebrews, and oftentimes what I will hear about Hebrews is that it is the way that they talk about Hebrews is that it is a letter that is pointing to this kind of statement that Jesus is better than, the topic of Hebrews. Whatever the topic is in the letter at the time that you're reading, right? So he's better than the high priest. He's better than the king. He's better than the law. He's better than the sacrifice. He's better than angels. He's better than all these things. He's a better intercessor for man, and so people, and I don't think it's wrong. I think it's quite right that there is that theme that Jesus is better than all these other things in life. That the book of Hebrews is about Jesus' supremacy over all these things. However, as I'm listening to the letter to the Hebrews, I am struck by the fact that the writer is very concerned about obedience. He's very concerned about how obedient people are to this Jesus who is better. And it's almost, to me, as I'm listening to it, it's almost as pressing on this topic of obedience as it is on Jesus and his supremacy over everything in the spiritual sense. You see, um it's almost like they go hand in hand. That if Jesus is better, then our obedience is also supreme to him because he's better than the law, he's better than sacrifices, he's better than a high priest, he's better than a king. He is a better intercessor, and so we should be subservient to him and obedient to him. I'm sorry the light this afternoon is just crazy. But I'm really struck. There was something that was it was mentioned about Israel. When it's discussing Israel, it's saying that their disobedience was a proof of their disbelief, that Israel was consistently disobedient to God. And the reason that they were disobedient was because they were full of disbelief. And if they had believed God, they would have been obedient. And so the letter is encouraging the church and believers to be obedient in a way that Israel wasn't. For we have better things and better promises in Jesus. Jesus himself is a better testament. He's a better promise, and he's a better covenant than what Abraham was given, than what Moses was given. And so it's imperative that we obey this Jesus who is better than all the old things. And if we are not obedient, if we don't strive for obedience, but we deliberately sin over and over and over again, then it's proof that we don't believe in Jesus. We don't believe in his supremacy over us and over all things, and we don't believe in his better sacrifice or his better commitment to us or the better testament that he gives to man. And this is actually quite challenging to me because I myself am someone who, yeah, I struggle with sin. I'm a human who struggles with sin, and the Bible's telling me that anywhere that I struggle to be obedient is an area that I'm struggling to be believe, like to believe in him. That disobedience is disbelief. And I don't know that I have been taught growing up. I've been in faithful churches. I've had good teaching, but I don't know that I've been taught by people who really press down on obedience. It's like, well, faith by works. You can't work to earn salvation. And so it's like they completely forget that in the midst of salvation, we are meant to do something. And we're meant to not do other things. We're meant to not be unrighteous, but to be fruitful in righteousness. And so I think that I was raised on poor teaching, incomplete teaching that did not heavily focus on obedience from sin, obedience to righteousness apart from sin. That you would just say, I don't want to sin, and that you lean into the Holy Spirit and you lean into the God who created you and redeemed you, and you say, "Help me to be obedient to you." And it's kind of a both and it's that I'm both choosing to be obedient and also granted the power to obey. It's not simply that I'm doing willpower obedience. That's not exactly the obedience that God's looking for. He wants obedience that's born out of a new creation, and one that is bought by Jesus and empowered by his Spirit. But at the same time, I can't just sit around and wait for the Spirit to come in and do something in me and make me obedient. No, I am transformed in my mind and in my desires so that, like Paul says, I discipline my body and I beat it severely that it might do what I want it to do. And this is challenging to me because I don't live my life thinking this way. I haven't necessarily been taught this way. I haven't been really taught that Jesus is gonna judge what I do. He's gonna judge my obedience. And so um in every work that I do and in all my days and everything I do, I don't know, it's kind of weird to me that churches would not emphasize a concern about bodily obedience while the scripture itself is giving many, many warnings that disobedience can lead to a ruined spiritual life, one that will not meet God. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that you can lose your salvation. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that a saved person is renewed in their mind and renewed in their spirit, that they would have a desire, at least a growing desire, to not willfully sin. I mean, and this is hard. This is something that's very difficult for me to really understand in myself. Because I acknowledge things like addictions. I myself dealt with addiction to pornography and lust and temptation from when I was a young boy. Those things were introduced into my life, and those things take deep roots in your mind and in your psyche and in your relationships and everything you do. And so I don't know, like, how does the Lord look at addiction? I'm not going to say, I mean, I know that the Lord is good and he is caring over us, and it says that he himself was born in weakness, and so he can be compassionate for our weaknesses. So I know that the Lord is compassionate to deal with. He was compassionate in my own addictions. He's compassionate, when I have talked and known people who have been addicted to substances and alcohol and gambling and all kinds of things that get deeply rooted into our mind and into our psyche. And I know that the Lord is compassionate over these things, and he was born in weakness that he might help us in our weakness. But I can't sit here and look at my addiction and say, well, God understands. God still wants me to be obedient. And in every way that I'm not, it's just proving that I don't believe in that area. And I do think there is a cause for concern with someone who continually shows disbelief through disobedience, that there is a concern that potentially that is an unregenerative disbelief, that it's a disbelief proving that they're not saved. And so I'm quite concerned for myself. You know, Peter, I believe, says to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. I don't think I fear and tremble enough at disobedience, and I should. I should be fearful of a disobedient spirit, knowing that it's just showing that I don't fully believe in something. Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I'm thinking about because I've been listening through Hebrews, and talk about faith is the confidence of things that you haven't seen. And if I'm confident, I'm gonna do it, right? If I'm confident that I could walk through fire and not get burned, then if the way out is through fire, I'm gonna confidently walk through it, right? I mean, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego confidently said the Lord's not gonna do anything. I mean, he's gonna protect us in this flame. And so they walked into it, and of course, the confidence doesn't mean that you're just sure, right? It doesn't mean I know what God's gonna do. God could have let them burn up, but they were confident in God's love. And so they walked forward in confidence. They obeyed because of their belief. Moses obeyed because of his belief. Abraham obeyed because of his belief. The apostles obeyed all the way to their death because of belief. And there's a concern with disobedience in the life of a believer, in the life of someone who goes to church and professes belief in Jesus. And so I want to have confidence, and I want my disbelief to be turned into belief so that I can be obedient, so I can live a fruitful and meaningful life and stop getting sidetracked and backtracked. I mean, Hebrews says, therefore, let us lay off every weight and every sin that clings so close, and let us run with endurance the race set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith. You see, all of Hebrews is leading up to this. Knowing all this, knowing that Jesus is better, knowing that Jesus is a good high priest, knowing that he's a better testament, that he's a better covenant, that he's a better intercessor and a better king over us, and he's a better sacrifice that does better things, and we have a better hope and a better future. And knowing then that because he's better, that disobedience to him is a proof that we don't believe in him, therefore let us lay aside every weight and every sin which clings so close, so that we can run with endurance in obedience the race set before us. What does Paul tell Timothy? That only the runner, can win if he competes according to the rules, if he obeys the rules. So we must be a good athlete. We must be a good soldier who doesn't get entangled in civilian affairs. We must be a farmer who is just diligently working. We must be an athlete who trains himself and disciplines himself that he can compete and win the race. And so we must lay off every weight and every sin which clings so close, which weighs us down and keeps us from running with endurance the race of obedience all the way to the end, looking to Jesus, who is perfectly obedient, who founded our faith, who perfected our faith, and is continually perfecting us. And let me not grieve the Spirit by being hardened in my heart like the ancestors were. But let me be pricked to the heart that I would look at sin, and I would look at my selfishness, and I would look at my addiction, and I would look at my unbelief and say, get out. be replaced by obedience, be replaced by love, be replaced by self-control and a spirit-filled life, so that I can run this race for Jesus, so that I can reach the crown, so that he won't be ashamed of me, so that I won't be ashamed at seeing him. Let me run with endurance. Anyways, that's just what I've been thinking about in listening through Hebrews and just looking at my own life and reflecting and pondering, and there's a lot for me to work on in life. How to be a better father, how to be a better husband, how to be a better worker, how to be a better follower of Jesus. I need new thoughts. I need new desires. I need new ambitions. I need a lot of things that are new given to me by God. Not just given to me by God, but actually pursued by myself, right? I mean, not on my own. I mean by my own person, pursued by my own person. That I would actually reach out to try and grasp these things. That I would wrestle with my body. That I would discipline myself. That I can make my body subservient to my mind. But I have to make my mind transformed. It needs to be renewed so that I think right things. And that way, when I make my body subservient to my mind, it is doing the will of the Lord. And and and, and ultimately that it would give glory to him and bless people and not just live for itself. Anyways, I'm rambling now. I'm gonna let it go at that, and that's just my thoughts for today. I hope you have a great day, a great week, a great evening, whatever it may be, that you're blessed, that you believe in Jesus, that you lay aside everything and pursue him fully and completely, and that you really strive for spiritual obedience to Jesus.